I found my fiancé's secret phone with messages to my bridesmaid planning one last night together before the wedding, so I changed our honeymoon booking to a solo trip, posted the screenshots at our rehearsal dinner, and left them both standing at the altar. I called off my wedding 48 hours before the ceremony after finding a burner phone in my fiancé's gym bag with months of texts planning to sleep with my bridesmaid one last time the night before we got married. I'm 29, he's 31. We've been together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months. My bridesmaid is 27 and I've known her since college. I thought she was one of my closest friends. 3 weeks before the wedding, I was looking for his protein powder in his gym bag because mine ran out. Found a cheap Android phone tucked in the bottom pocket. It wasn't locked. The messages were all there. Hundreds of them. Going back 7 months. Right around when we got engaged. The texts were disgusting. Talking about hotel rooms they'd met at. Saying how forbidden it made everything feel. How they'd have to be careful at the bachelorette party because people were watching them. And then the recent ones, talking about the rehearsal dinner and the wedding night. She texted, "One last time before you're officially locked down, lol." He replied, "I'll tell her I'm staying at my brother's place after the rehearsal. Meet me at the Marriott on 5th. I sat on our bedroom floor reading every single message. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. They'd slept together at least a dozen times. In our bed while I was visiting my parents. In her apartment. In his car in some parking garage downtown. I didn't confront him right away. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to my own phone. Then I put the burner back exactly where I found it. For 2 days I acted completely normal. Smiled at the rehearsal planning. Confirmed details with the venue. Listened to him talk about how excited he was to marry me. The whole time I'm thinking about what I'm going to do. My bridesmaid texted me during this time asking if I needed help with any last-minute wedding stuff. I told her everything was perfect. The rehearsal dinner was at this nice restaurant, about 60 people. Both our families, the wedding party, close friends. Everyone's dressed up, drinking champagne, giving toasts. I waited until after my dad's speech. Then I stood up with my wine glass. I said I wanted to share something special with everyone. I thanked them all for coming. Then I said I'd recently discovered something that changed everything. I had printed out the screenshots. All of them. I'd made packets. I started passing them around the tables. My fiancé's face went white immediately. My bridesmaid knocked over her drink standing up. She said wait really loud, but I just kept handing out the papers. People started reading them. You could hear the reaction spreading through the room. Gasps. Someone said, "Oh my God." My mom started crying. My fiancé tried to grab my arm. I pulled away and told him not to touch me. He started saying it wasn't what it looked like. That the messages were taken out of context. My bridesmaid was just standing there frozen with her mouth open. I told everyone the wedding was cancelled. I said I'd be keeping the honeymoon booking but changing it to my name only, since it was a trip to Iceland and I'd been planning mostly by myself anyway and I'd paid for most of it with money my grandmother left me. Then I walked out. My phone started blowing up immediately. My fiancé called 47 times that night. His mother showed up at my apartment at midnight screaming that I humiliated her son in front of everyone. I didn't open the door. His brother texted saying I was a vindictive bitch for airing everything publicly instead of handling it privately. My bridesmaid sent this long message about how it just happened and they couldn't help their feelings and she was sorry but they'd fallen in love. I blocked her. Some of my relatives are saying I went too far with the public humiliation. That I should have just called off the wedding quietly. My aunt said printing out the texts and passing them around was cruel and now the whole family is embarrassed. But they planned to sleep together the night before my wedding. They'd been lying to my face for 7 months. She was going to stand next to me at the altar knowing what she'd done. I left for Iceland yesterday. Changed the hotel booking to a single room. I'm sitting in Reykjavik right now drinking coffee and trying to process everything. My sister says I handled it the only way that felt right and she's proud of me. But my mom keeps calling saying I should have given him a chance to explain, that maybe they can work it out. I don't know. Maybe I should have just texted everyone that the wedding was off instead of doing it that way. Was I wrong? So I've been in Iceland for 5 days now and somehow everything back home has gotten even messier. The day after I left, my ex-fiancé's mother tried to get into my apartment. My neighbor texted me a video of her banging on my door at 7 a.m. screaming about how I destroyed her son's life and embarrassed their entire family. She was yelling that I owed them money for the wedding venue, the catering, all of it. My neighbor actually called the building manager because she wouldn't leave. Apparently she sat in the hallway for 3 hours waiting for me to come home before someone finally told her I was out of the country. My phone has been going crazy. I've gotten over 200 messages since the rehearsal dinner. Most of my friends have been supportive but his side of the family has been brutal. His aunt sent me this long text about how public humiliation is abuse and I'm just as bad as he is. His cousin called me a psycho. His dad left me a voicemail saying I'm vindictive and cruel and his son made one mistake that I'm blowing out of proportion. One mistake. 7 months of sneaking around with my bridesmaid is one mistake. But here's where it gets worse. My ex-bridesmaid posted on Instagram a long caption about toxic friendships and people who can't forgive and how she's learning to stand in her truth. She didn't mention me by name, but it was obvious. The comments were split. Half were people who were at the rehearsal dinner or heard about it calling her out. The other half were her friends who don't know the full story, saying things like you deserve happiness and real friends support each other. I wanted to comment the screenshots, but my sister talked me out of it. She said I'd already made my point and engaging would just make me look obsessed. Then yesterday my ex started texting me from a different number. I blocked his original one. He said we needed to talk in person when I got back. That he wanted to explain everything properly because the text didn't tell the whole story. He said he never stopped loving me and what happened with her was complicated. I didn't respond, but I read all his messages. He sent 15 in a row. He said she pursued him. That she was always flirting with him and eventually he gave in because he was stressed about the wedding and she made him feel seen. He said it meant nothing and he was planning to end it after we got married. That the texts about meeting at the hotel the night before the wedding were just talk, they weren't actually going to do it. I almost threw my phone into the harbor. My mom called me crying this morning. She said his mother showed up at my parents' house yesterday with a lawyer's letter. They're demanding I return the engagement ring and reimburse them for their portion of the wedding expenses. The letter says I caused emotional distress and reputational damage by distributing private messages without consent. My mom was sobbing, asking if I could get in legal trouble. I told her I'd deal with it when I got home, but honestly I have no idea. The ring was his grandmother's, so I guess they want it back. I left it on the kitchen counter of our apartment the night of the rehearsal dinner. But the wedding expenses? His parents paid for the bar tab at the reception and his suit. Maybe $3,000 total. We split everything else, or my family covered it. My dad got on the phone and said not to worry about it. That any lawyer would laugh them out of the office. But I could hear how stressed he sounded. I also found out my ex moved back in with his parents. One of my friends who's still in contact with his brother told me. Apparently our apartment was too painful for him and he couldn't handle being there alone. He's been calling out sick from work all week. Meanwhile I'm sitting in this beautiful country trying to process everything and I can't even enjoy it properly. I went to see the Northern Lights last night with a tour group and just stood there crying while everyone else took photos. This was supposed to be our honeymoon. We'd planned this trip for a year. We were going to hike glaciers and swim in hot springs and stay in this tiny cabin in the countryside. Now I'm doing it alone and everywhere I go I'm thinking about what it would have been like if I hadn't found that phone. I keep wondering if I should have handled it differently. If exposing them publicly was too far. My aunt won't stop texting me saying I could have called off the wedding without humiliating them in front of 60 people. That I turned into someone ugly and vengeful. But they were planning to meet up the night before my wedding. They had hotel reservations. She was going to stand next to me at the altar the next day knowing what they'd done the night before. How else was I supposed to react? I don't regret canceling everything. I don't regret leaving. But I'm starting to wonder if my mom is right, if maybe the way I did it makes me just as bad as them. If I let my anger turn me into someone I don't recognize. I have 4 more days here before I fly home and face whatever's waiting for me. The lawyer's letter. His family. The fallout with mutual friends. I've already lost my deposit on our apartment because both our names are on the lease and I refuse to live there anymore. Part of me wants to just stay here and not go back at all. I got back from Iceland 2 days ago and walked into an absolute nightmare. My ex and his former mistress broke up. Violently. The police were called to her apartment 3 nights ago because neighbors heard screaming and things breaking. Apparently once I canceled the wedding and exposed everything, the fantasy fell apart and they turned on each other. I found out from my friend who still talks to his brother. She sent me the whole story and I'm still trying to process it. So after I left for Iceland, they actually tried to make it work. My ex moved in with his parents but was spending every night at her place. They were posting things on social media about real love and finding happiness in unexpected places. She put up this photo of them together with some quote about soulmates. The comments were brutal. People from the rehearsal dinner were replying with screenshots of their texts. Her other friends were calling her out. His family was apparently furious that he was still seeing her after everything. His mother told him if he didn't end it immediately, she'd cut him off financially. He's got student loans she's been helping with and she co-signed his car. She gave him an ultimatum. He broke up with her 4 days ago. Told her it was a mistake and they got caught up in the affair excitement but it wasn't real. That he actually did love me and regretted everything. She lost it. Started blowing up his phone saying he used her, that he promised they'd be together after the wedding was done. That he told her I was cold and distant and he'd never been happy with me. She said he'd been planning to leave me anyway and the wedding was just going through the motions. He denied all of it. Said she was twisting his words. She showed up at his parents' house at 2 a.m. banging on the door. His dad called the cops. She was screaming in the front yard about how he ruined her life, destroyed her friendships, made her the villain when he was the one who pursued her first. The neighbors came out. Someone recorded it on their phone. I haven't watched the video, but apparently it's making rounds in our social circle. When the cops got there, she was sitting on the curb crying. They didn't arrest her, but they told her to leave and not come back. His parents are talking about getting some kind of order against her if she contacts them again. My friend said she's been texting everyone from the wedding party trying to explain her side. Saying he manipulated her. That he told her I was emotionally abusive and he needed to get out but couldn't because of the wedding planning. That the affair was his idea and he love-bombed her into believing they had a future. I don't know what to believe anymore. Part of me thinks she's just trying to save face now that everything crashed. But part of me wonders if he really did manipulate both of us. Then yesterday I went back to our apartment to get the rest of my things. He texted me from yet another new number saying he wouldn't be there, that he'd stay away so I could pack in peace. The place was destroyed. Not like trashed on purpose, but like someone had been living in filth. Dishes piled in the sink. Trash everywhere. Mail scattered all over the counter. It smelled terrible. The engagement ring was still on the kitchen counter where I left it. But next to it was a letter. 5 pages, front and back, in his handwriting. I almost didn't read it. I stood there for 10 minutes just staring at it. But I couldn't help myself. He wrote about how he'd been feeling trapped as the wedding got closer. How he loved me but felt like we were moving too fast. How she started flirting with him at my bachelorette party planning meeting and it felt nice to be wanted without all the pressure. How it escalated and he didn't know how to stop it. He said he never meant for it to go as far as it did. That the texts about meeting at the hotel the night before the wedding were just fantasy talk, they weren't actually going to do it. He swore they hadn't slept together in 3 weeks because he was trying to end it before the wedding. He said he understood why I did what I did at the rehearsal dinner. That he deserved it. But he also said I destroyed any chance of him having a normal life now. That everyone looks at him differently. That he lost friends, his parents are ashamed of him, and his job found out because someone at the rehearsal dinner works at the same company. The last page was him begging me to talk to him. Saying we could go to therapy. That he'd do anything to fix this. That what we had was real and worth fighting for. I left the letter on the counter and finished packing my stuff. My phone rang while I was loading boxes into my car. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. It was her. She was crying, almost incomprehensible. Saying she needed me to know the truth about what really happened. That he'd been telling her for months that I was controlling and he wanted out. That he said the wedding was for my parents, not for him. That he told her he was going to call it off but needed time. I asked her why she was telling me this now. She said because she just realized he lied to both of us. That he never planned to leave me or be with her. That the whole thing was him having his cake and eating it too, and when it blew up he threw her under the bus to save himself. She said she was sorry. That she knew it didn't mean anything now but she wanted me to know she really thought he loved her. That she wouldn't have done it otherwise. I hung up on her. I don't know what's true anymore. Did he manipulate her? Did she pursue him? Were they both equally guilty? Does it even matter? My mom is still getting calls from his mother about the ring and the wedding expenses. My dad told her to pound sand. We're keeping the ring until they produce actual receipts for what they claim we owe, which my dad says they won't because they're bluffing. I signed a lease on a new apartment yesterday. 1 bedroom, smaller than what we had, but it's mine. Just mine. I move in next week. But I can't stop thinking about that letter. About her phone call. About whether I'm angrier at him for cheating or at both of them for making me question everything I thought I knew about my own relationship. Everyone keeps telling me I did the right thing. That I'm better off. That I dodged a bullet. But sitting in my parents' guest room at 31 years old, starting over completely, I don't feel like I won anything. I just feel tired. My ex-bridesmaid's roommate reached out to me 3 days ago and told me something that's made everything so much worse. She said she needed to tell me the truth because she couldn't stay quiet anymore. We met at a coffee shop near my new apartment and she brought her laptop. She'd been recording conversations. Not on purpose at first, she said. Their apartment has thin walls and she'd been recording herself practicing for some work presentation. Her recording app was running in the background one night last month when my ex and the bridesmaid were in the living room talking. She didn't realize it had picked up their conversation until she went back to review her practice sessions. She played it for me right there in the coffee shop. I could hear both their voices clearly. They were talking about the wedding. About me. He was saying how I'd been so focused on planning that I wasn't paying attention to him anymore. How everything was about flowers and seating charts and I'd stopped being fun. She was agreeing, saying she'd noticed I'd gotten controlling and intense. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. He said once we were married he'd have access to the life insurance policy my grandmother left me as beneficiary. That we talked about him being added after the wedding. He said it was worth just dealing with everything until then. She laughed and said something about how he was playing the long game. The recording was 8 minutes long. They talked about other stuff too. About hotel rooms they'd been to. About how careful they had to be at my bachelorette party. About what they'd do after the wedding when things calmed down and I wasn't suspicious anymore. At one point she asked him if he actually loved me. There was a pause. Then he said, "I love what she can give me." I sat there in that coffee shop listening to this and I couldn't breathe. The roommate was watching me with this horrible pitying expression. She said she thought about telling me before the wedding, but she wasn't sure if it was her place. That she'd been fighting with my bridesmaid about it for weeks. That after everything exploded at the rehearsal dinner she felt like I deserved to know this part too. I asked her why she was telling me now. She said because my bridesmaid had been calling her nonstop since the breakup, trying to get her to lie for her. Trying to get her to tell people that he was the manipulator and she was the victim. The roommate said she was tired of protecting her and watching her play victim when she knew exactly what she was doing. I took a copy of the recording. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. When I got home I just sat on my floor in my empty apartment listening to it over and over. His voice saying he loved what I could give him. Talking about my grandmother's life insurance policy like it was some kind of prize he was waiting to claim. My grandmother died 2 years ago and left me $180,000 in the life insurance policy. It's been sitting in an account because I was planning to use it for a down payment on a house after the wedding. We talked about it multiple times. He knew exactly how much it was worth. I called my sister and told her everything. She was silent for a long time. Then she said I needed to talk to a lawyer because what he said on that recording sounded like fraud or something worse. Like he was planning to marry me for money. I haven't told my parents yet. My mom is finally starting to move on from everything and I don't want to drag her back into it. But my dad keeps asking me if I'm okay and I can tell he knows something else happened. Yesterday my ex texted me again from another new number. He said his mother found out about the recording somehow. That word is spreading and people are calling him a gold digger now on top of everything else. He said I'm destroying his life piece by piece and he's begging me to stop. I haven't responded to any of his messages. I blocked that number too. But here's the thing that's eating at me. I keep going back through our entire relationship trying to figure out what was real. We started dating 4 months after my grandmother died. He knew about the inheritance from early on because I'd mentioned it. Was that why he stayed? Was any of it real? The ring his family wants back? His grandmother's ring? I looked it up online. It's worth maybe $1,200. My grandmother's policy is $180,000. The math is obvious now. My friend who's still connected to his brother told me he's been applying to jobs in other states. That he wants to leave town and start over somewhere no one knows him. His mother is apparently furious about the recording because now their whole church community knows. Someone played it for their pastor. The bridesmaid has gone completely dark on social media. Her Instagram is deleted. Her roommate said she moved out 2 days ago and didn't tell anyone where she was going. Just packed her stuff while the roommate was at work and left. I should feel vindicated. I should feel like justice is happening. But instead I just feel sick. I'm meeting with a lawyer next week to figure out if there's anything legally wrong with what he did. My sister thinks I should report it to someone, but I don't even know who you report this kind of thing to. The police? Is it even a crime to date someone for their money if you don't actually steal it? The lease on our old apartment is up in 2 months. His name is still on it along with mine. My dad is handling the logistics of getting me off it early. I can't afford to pay half the rent on a place I'm never going back to. I moved into my new apartment yesterday. It's smaller and cheaper and the walls are thin, but it's mine. I unpacked 3 boxes before I gave up and just sat on the floor. My phone keeps buzzing with messages from people who've heard the recording. Some are supportive. Some are asking if I'm okay. Some are asking me what I'm going to do next, like this is some kind of revenge story with a satisfying ending planned out. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm supposed to do anything. Everyone keeps waiting for me to make the next move, but I'm so tired of this being my life. The recording changed everything. I met with a lawyer 2 weeks ago and brought the audio file. She listened to the whole thing twice, made notes, then looked at me and said while what he did was morally reprehensible, it wasn't technically illegal. You can't prosecute someone for dating you with bad intentions. But she said I should absolutely keep the recording and consider it protection if he ever tried to come after me for anything. She also told me to change the beneficiary on my grandmother's life insurance policy immediately and make sure he had no access to any of my accounts. I did all of that the same day. My ex found out about the lawyer meeting somehow. His brother told my friend who told me. Apparently he had a complete meltdown at his parents' house, screaming that I was trying to destroy him, that the recording was taken out of context, that he never actually planned to do anything with the insurance money. His mother called my dad. My dad told her to lose his number and hung up. She tried calling my mom next. My mom let her talk for about 30 seconds before saying your son is a liar and a user and we're done with this conversation and blocking her. I didn't expect my parents to be that harsh, but my dad told me later he was furious. That he'd liked my ex, trusted him, welcomed him into our family. Finding out he'd been calculating about my inheritance the whole time made my dad feel like an idiot for not seeing it sooner. The recording got shared. I don't know who leaked it, but suddenly half our social circle had heard it. My ex's employer called him in for a meeting because apparently there's some morality clause in his contract and multiple co-workers had complained about working with him after everything came out. He quit before they could fire him. Moved back to his hometown 6 hours away last week. His brother told my friend that he's staying with his aunt and looking for work there. That he can't handle being in this city anymore where everyone knows what he did. Good. My ex-bridesmaid resurfaced briefly on social media with a post about toxic people and moving forward. She'd moved 3 hours north to stay with some cousin. The post lasted 4 hours before she deleted it. Her former roommate told me she's been job hunting because she quit her position here rather than face everyone. I don't feel bad for either of them. What I do feel is exhausted. And relieved. And angry that I wasted 4 years on someone who saw me as a bank account with a personality attached. I've been in my new apartment for 3 weeks now. It's small and the kitchen is outdated and I can hear my neighbor's TV through the walls. But it's mine. I bought cheap furniture from Facebook Marketplace and my sister helped me hang curtains and it's starting to feel like home. My parents gave me the money they'd saved for the wedding as a gift. Said they wanted me to have it to start over. It was enough to cover my security deposit and first 2 months of rent. My mom cried when she handed me the check and told me she was sorry she'd ever suggested I give him another chance. I've blocked my ex on everything. Changed my number. He has no way to contact me anymore and I plan to keep it that way. Last week I got a message request on Facebook from his mother. I almost deleted it without reading but curiosity got the better of me. She wrote this long thing about how she raised him better than this, how she's ashamed of what he did, how she hopes someday I can forgive him even though she understands if I never do. Then she said she wanted to return the ring to me. That it was his grandmother's but after everything that happened, she didn't want him to have it. She said if I wanted it I could keep it or sell it, she didn't care. She just couldn't stand looking at it anymore knowing what it represented. I told her to donate it or sell it herself. That I wanted nothing that connected me to their family. She responded saying she understood and apologized again. I didn't reply after that. My friend told me my ex has been telling people up in his hometown that I was controlling and that the relationship was toxic. That he made mistakes but I was vindictive and cruel. Apparently his version of events leaves out the 7-month affair, the secret phone, and the recording where he admitted he loved what I could give him. I don't care what story he tells himself. The people who matter know the truth. I went on a date last week. Just coffee with a guy my sister's friend set me up with. It was fine. Nice even. But the whole time I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Kept analyzing everything he said for hidden meanings. Kept wondering if he was only there because my sister mentioned I had some money saved. I told my therapist about it. She said it's normal to have trust issues after what I went through. That it'll take time before I can be vulnerable with someone again. Maybe a lot of time. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being alone for a while. With figuring out who I am without someone else's expectations hanging over me. The worst part is the small moments when I forget everything that happened. When I see something funny and instinctively reach for my phone to text him before I remember. When I'm cooking dinner and accidentally make enough for two. When I wake up in the middle of the night and for half a second wonder where he is before reality crashes back. Those moments are getting less frequent. But they still hurt. I drove past our old apartment building yesterday by accident. Took a wrong turn and ended up on that street before I realized where I was. The building looked the same. Life just continuing like nothing happened. Like I didn't find a burner phone in a gym bag 3 months ago that blew up my entire future. I didn't stop. Just kept driving until I got home. People keep asking me if I'm glad I found out before the wedding. If I feel lucky that it all came out when it did. The answer is yes, obviously. But lucky isn't the word I'd use. Lucky would have been him being the person I thought he was. Lucky would have been her being an actual friend. Lucky would have been not wasting 4 years on a lie. What I am is free. And broke. And starting over. And angrier than I thought possible at two people who aren't worth my anger. But I'm also here. In my apartment with the thin walls and the outdated kitchen. With my job and my family and my friends who showed up when everything fell apart. With my grandmother's life insurance policy still sitting in an account with my name only on it, untouched. I'm here and he's not. That's something. My sister asked me last night if I regret exposing them at the rehearsal dinner. If I'd do it differently now. I thought about it for a long time before I answered. No. I wouldn't change it. They planned to betray me in the worst possible way and keep doing it after I became his wife. They deserve to be exposed. They deserve the consequences. Maybe that makes me vindictive like he says. Maybe I should have handled it privately like my aunt keeps insisting. But I needed everyone to see the truth at once. Needed witnesses so they couldn't twist the story later. And it worked. No one believes his version of events. No one's taking his side. I won this fight even though winning feels hollow. The life I thought I was building is gone. The future I planned doesn't exist anymore. But I'm building something new. Something that's actually mine and not built on lies and calculations. That has to be enough.